It's time to take a look at the Wrathful Procession Detachment, which is the brand new way to run the Black Templars. In this overview, we're going to take a look at the stratagems, the enhancements, and also the key combinations that will make this detachment work. We're going to take a look and see if this detachment has any competitive strengths in comparison to the Righteous Crusade detachment. You will get to pick from multiple different litanies at the start of the battle round. So let's take a look and let's see if this detachment is better or worse than Righteous Crusaders.
Coming up is going to be an overview of the brand new detachment that Games Workshop have been releasing for Warhammer 40,000. We're going to look at whether this detachment is going to be a competitive choice, whether it's going to be one that's more flavorful and narrative, and maybe something that you might want to consider trying yourself, or alternatively, what you need to know and look out for if you're going to be playing against some of these new detachments. Now, to take things a little bit further on our members page, and if you want to become a YouTube member, the link's going to be in the description. You are going to get a list for this detachment, something that's super competitive, super flavorful, and we're going to make the most of what we can do with this detachment. Now, as we always say, we will try and help you use the models that you own, and we're going to give you some top combos that you can introduce into your list to really make the most of them. Now, not only that, but you're also going to get loads of additional members content, whether it's our live members lounge where you can get your questions answered, or even dictate our games that we play on streams on Fridays. And on our masterclass series, we go one step further. We show you the list, we show you how to deploy it, and we also show you some advanced tactics. And the best thing about that is that you're going to understand exactly how every single faction plays in the game of Warhammer 40,000, so you don't get caught out at the tabletop. We're all about helping you feel like you're able to compete at the table, and knowing all that information is going to be one of those steps to ensure that you don't get gotcha momented. So enjoy this detachment overview, and we really hope and look forward to your feedback and some of the best ways to play this detachment.
It's time to take a look at the Wrathful Procession Detachment. This is the brand new way to run your Black Templars. So what we're going to do in this overview is we're going to take a look at the stratagems, the enhancements, and also some of the key combinations. Michael, we're going to be taking a look at a new army today. What is the detachment rule?
So the detachment rule we have is our Zealous Litanies. Thankfully, a lot easier to say than the detachment name. And at the start of each battle round, we're going to pick one of 3 different litanies.
Oh, so like Gladius with the doctrines?
Yes, except it's battle round, not command phase.
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So it's going to last for both turns, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there is a defensive one, so it kind of makes sense that you could pick that if you're worried about taking some hits.
Sure.
So it's going to last until the end of the battle round, but you only affect infantry and mounted units in your army.
Okay, right. Well, obviously, Black Templars is a very infantry-heavy army anyway. We've seen these Horde-style lists with the Black Templars, so we're going to be looking at a lot of those. And also, Outriders have had a buff, so potentially Outriders might have a place.
Yes.
But let's have a look at the rules we actually gained from this. So what's the first litany that we can take?
So this is the chorus of Relentless Hate.
So we're singing now, are we? Right, okay. Wow, that's beautiful, Mike.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. But what do we get for this shouting?
So we're going to get +2 move,
Right.
and +1 to our advance rolls.
Well, that was a beautiful chorus, mate. That's fantastic rule.
We're going to keep shouting.
Yeah.
But don't worry, we're not. So +2 move is incredibly impactful.
Yes.
For the Black Templars. It's very much an army that favours infantry, as you've said, but not infantry with things like jump packs that let us access real mobility. So your Sword Brethren and your Crusader bricks now can move 8 inches, advance potentially with the +1. You have, I think, advance and charges just Grimaldus.
Just Grimaldus.
Unfortunately, there isn't any in the detachment. Cover that now.
Yeah, definitely.
But getting out of transports, you're essentially disembarking 3. You're moving 6. You've got +2. So you're going 11 inches out of transports with things like Sword Brethren, which is quite a good threat range, especially for the staging points that you could put these transports on most terrain layouts.
Yeah, I think 9 inches is actually kind of the sweet spot. I mean, World Eaters, they pretty much have a similar rule anyway with obviously their Blessings of Khorne. You see that they can get across the board quite fast with just that extra pip of movement. So I think obviously it's going to work very similarly with the Black Templars army here, which is good to see.
Next, we've got the Rite of Perfervid Wrath.
Do they just make these names up? Do they just go into a thesaurus and go...
Sorry, don't you know what Perfervid means?
I have no clue what that means, mate, to be honest.
Neither do I.
No, fair enough.
I don't know.
Maybe they just got ChatGPT to make it up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then they went, no, make it more complicated.
Yeah. But
No,
what does,
more Fs and Vs.
more Fs and Vs.
Make it harder to say.
But what does this random word give us?
So if we do this one, we get +1 strength on our melee weapons.
So +1 strength, I think, is good because for certain matchups, if you go into Orks, your chainswords can wound them on 4s. We actually spoke off camera with the Outriders, didn't we? Which get +1 strength anyway. So now they'll be getting +2 strength because you can stack strength modifiers. So you'd be getting against Orks with chainswords again with your Outriders, you'd be wounding them on 3s. So sometimes looking at the +1 strength is actually +1 to wound into certain unit archetypes, right?
Yes.
However, why would you pick this over +2 move?
Maybe everything's already in combat.
Yeah.
That's like the only, or you don't, your threat range is close enough. That's
You
about
don't
the
need
only,
Or maybe the matchup you're going into. I mean, Orks is actually a really good example
Yeah.
here for Space Marines. If you're into that matchup, maybe the +1 strength is just so much or too good not to take.
Yeah.
There is a stratagem you can combo with this, which is really nice as well. If your opponent has certain minuses to wounds, maybe.
Okay.
So we do have some good stratagems there, which is interesting.
Yeah, fantastic. And when you look at some of the units you've got available, this is obviously going to help you hit harder with Sword Brethren. You're going to reach those great wound profiles. It's all about manipulating the wound with this one.
Especially with Grimaldus.
It's all about knowledge, basically. Do you know what your opponent's toughness values are?
Yeah.
And then how does your units compare to that?
It's always good to do a bit of math hammer on that one, I think. But like as I said, Grimaldus with the 20, we're getting all those chainswords to strength 5. But even Helbrecht, he gives you +1 strength anyway.
Yeah.
So you'll be getting +2 strength with his unit. So there is like characters there that can actually start buffing you even more. So looking at your data sheets, especially your named characters that give you these buffs, it's very important to look at that and how that's going to swing certain matchups for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think what would have been nice here is maybe +2 strength on the charge at the end to make it a bit more appealing over the +2 move.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I guess the issue, though, if we did do that one, is you'd probably have the +2 move anyway to make sure you get the charge.
True.
So I guess that's what they've thought about, is
Yeah.
that you can have this if everything's already in combat.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So maybe that's the reason they've done this.
Okay.
Anyway, there is a third one.
Okay, well, what's the third one?
It's the Chant of Deathless Devotion.
Wow. These are some beautiful names. What does this give us?
So this one gives us a 5+ invulnerable save against ranged attacks.
Okay, that's really good. We don't really have invulnerable saves in any of our units that we're encouraged to take. So Sword Brethren don't have them. Your Primaris Crusader squad, your big brick, doesn't have an invulnerable save. So now we have that option, especially with the change to Armor of Contempt. I think this is quite nice because most things that would go into these, I would imagine, would be AP2 or 3. That would probably take you further than that.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have that 5-up guaranteed save on a big brick or your units, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Your Sword Brethren obviously get a lot out of this because they don't normally have any kind of invulnerable save.
Yeah.
But that said, there's going to be some situations where you don't need it because you've got power armor, you probably have cover, and that usually means that anything AP1 or 2, you're on a 5-up anyway, or you're on a 4-up, or spend a CP, go to ground, and then you've got cover even in the open.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, again, it's another one of those, what kind of firepower am I facing? Is it like plasma? Okay,
Yeah,
well,
true.
I need the 5-up in one. Is it like Tau with extra AP or something from being really close to you? Then, okay, cool. Then you'll need this.
I mean, maybe they could have put it as a 5-up all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe, right? Like,
They,
maybe the good thing is, though, looking
Yeah.
at it from this perspective, is you don't have too many decisions to make. Is they've kind of helped you in the sense of, right, we've got a +2 move to help us get into combat.
yeah.
Right, cool. We're in combat now. We've got +1 strength if we need it. Okay, we're playing against a shooting army. Well, we've got one option here.
Yeah.
Rather than them all being extremely good, like maybe some of the options I've just suggested.
Yes.
And now we've got decision fatigue, and we're just going, oh, I want all of them.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe that's just a balancing factor there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is an easy decision. If there is a lot of firepower that is the right AP, ignores cover as well, then 5-up in one.
Yeah.
But as you say, most of the time, +2 move.
I like how all these ones are really good against Xenos factions. Because we hate the Xenos, we hate the Heretic, and we hate the Alien. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the detachment rule. Yeah.
It's good. It's good. It's not a bad detachment rule, but
not bad.
Is it going to take away from Righteous Crusade? Maybe not, because I think Sustained and Feel No Pains are just better, but we don't have to work in concert with getting the right one to trigger other effects.
Yes.
Right, so that there is that trade-off, I guess, in the fact that we're just always going to get an ability And when we come to the enhancements and stratagems, it's the same sort of concept.
Agreed.
So what is the first enhancement?
First enhancement is Pyre Brand. So this is Black Templars model only. So that means Marshal or Castellan. And this one is going to give your units stealth.
Yeah, I think this one works really well actually with the 20 Crusader brick, because 20 Crusader Space Marines with stealth sounds pretty terrifying, to be honest. It's a shame. Well, I say it's a shame. It's probably not a shame, but imagine if you could combo this with Grimaldus, maybe put in another character in there to give stealth, 5-up feel no pain.
Yeah, there's a big loss here because of the Black Templars keyword requirement.
Definitely.
It would have been nice to get this on Terminators.
Yeah.
Because that makes them extra durable. And then, of course, you've got +2 moves. So your Terminator's now going 7 inches. Makes them a bit better. Like we talked about with the Librarius detachment for Space Marines, your Terminator's a lot more maneuverable. And you still get all of the rest of the good stuff from having Terminators. But what I would have loved to see is Black Templars or Chaplain.
Yes.
Just to extend the range of options better. But it is quite funny to me that a Pyre Brand is making you harder to hit.
It's too much fire. It's too bright.
It's just, yeah.
It's too bright, yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, great on a big Crusader brick.
Yeah.
Or just keeping some Sword Brethren alive. Next is Sacred Rage. This one we have seen before. This is any Adepta Sororitas model. Once per game, at the start of the fight phase, you can declare that the bearer is going to use this enhancement, and it gives them fights first.
No, I mean, this is a very, very strong enhancement to get. If you can give fights first to any unit, I mean, it's fantastic, right? Especially on a melee faction. And with Sword Brethren as well, it's just even more horrific because Sword Brethren are just nuts. Absolutely crazy good. So yeah, it's very, very good. And I think you're definitely putting this in your list.
Yeah, 100%. You've got a few options. Obviously, captains or marshals are great. As you say, Sword Brethren, if you want to go cheaper, you could go Assault Intercessors. But having both means you have the option to lead either.
Yeah.
There is an argument for a Castellan that can join Helbrecht for a very untouchable brick.
He is the untouchable
army.
isn't he?
Like if you play against World Eaters, they literally can't touch that unit.
No, and he's going to come in
everything. But at the same time, it's probably good enough as it is that your opponent probably doesn't charge it anyway. Tyranids Censor is the next one. So this one can go on a Black Templars model only. Again, that same restriction as earlier. What it does is at the start of the fight phase, all of the enemy units in engagement range of you have to take a battleshot test at -1.
Okay.
Depends how cheap it is.
I guess depends how cheap it is, but are you really going to bother taking it? I mean, look, to be fair, and I'll preface this, we have said a lot, to be fair, on the channel, that if you can do Battle Shock at -1, it is really good because of the way it manipulates that test roll, right?
Yeah.
However, why would you pay for an enhancement on it? I think it's better if you can get it on a data sheet or an ability, potentially as an addition on a stratagem. Like at the end of a stratagem, well, if you do this, then you could trigger a battle shock as well. If you've got spare points, you might do it, but I think it's one of those you would tend to forget that you even have the enhancement because it's not as impactful as you would kind of expect it to be.
Yes, agreed. If you've got points, maybe.
Yeah.
But probably not. Benediction of Fury, it's back.
It's back.
So Benediction of Fury is chaplain only, of course. It's going to give the chaplains weapons in melee, devastating wounds.
It's a weird one, this, because
bother.
you don't bother. I mean, the only way you're going to get the most out of it with Assault Intercessors, with Chaplain on foot, because you can then reroll wounds, but you don't have the attacks characteristic to boast a devastating wounds damage 2 weapon. It's not like the captain, who can have loads of attacks once per game and get loads of dev wounds. Now, here's the question then. We've obviously gone through all 4 enhancements. We've said the fights first is an auto-include. The stealth is good if you're going to take it on a brick without Grimaldus.
Yeah.
Then we've got 2 here that we've kind of gone, they're okay. Which out of the 2 do you think we would include in the list?
If we had to include one, it'd probably be the Battleshock one, you know.
I agree, actually.
I don't think you even bother with the dev wounds.
No.
It's less reliable than the Battleshock one.
Yeah.
You know, when Battleshock's concerned, that's quite a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely the Battleshock one. But again, probably wouldn't bother including it. It depends on the points again.
Yeah, like if you've got points, I think you go fights first, and then if you've got points, you just slap on the Battleshock. Yeah. The other 2 you don't really include because I think Grimaldus is just too good, especially with the +2 move, vigor or whatever you call it. Vigor.
Chorus of Relentless Hate, actually, mate.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, so unless you include that one, then you're not really going to Do you know what I mean? You don't need that character because they're too expensive, the 20 bricks, to take multiple of them, really. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. But we do have stratagems to look at next. So let's take a look at the stratagems. What's the first one?
Fueled by death.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's some fuel.
1 CP,
Right.
any phase, when mortal wounds are taken by an Adepta Sororitas unit, you can, until the end of the phase, have a 5-up opponent playing against mortal wounds.
Okay, that's pretty good.
It's a weird name, but yeah, sure.
So you take mortal wounds, and then you can decide to play the stratagem. So it's similar to the ones we've seen with like the Custodes, the Blood Angels. So it's a really nice one to have in the pocket, because I think a lot of the time what this does is it deters your opponent from maybe grenading or something of that nature, unless they want to force you to spend a CP as well. It's kind of that deterrent of, well, what's the point in doing it, because I could just roll 1 mortal wound and you've got to save against it.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see how many you take as well before you play it.
Yeah, agreed.
So nice to have in the pocket.
And when you've got Sword Brethren and big bricks of Prime Master Crusaders, people will tend to shoot a lot of potential devastating wounds at them. So now you've got it in the pocket for all of the devastating wounds that your opponent might try and pour into that unit. So you've got an extra save on top. Naturally, if we're taking a Crusader brick, we might well be taking Grimaldus.
Yeah.
We have it anyway built. So we'll see. But it works on any unit.
It
So
does
could
work on any.
Transport, whatever it might be.
Yeah, but I guess also as well, if Grimaldus picks the Advance and Charge rather than the Feel No Pain, you have an option for a version of Feel No Pain. But also if you take the extra layer of the 5-up invul, and like you said, someone then goes, well, I need Dev Wounds to get past this invul, well, you have a protection against that as well. So there's so many layers of durability, I think, that are stacking here. But the stars have to align, I guess, to make it all work in one sweep.
Yeah, agreed. Armor of Contempt is the next one. So obviously, until the end of that attack, you're going to reduce all incoming AP by 1.
Yeah. It's good.
It's okay.
Yeah.
The problem is you're on 3-up saves for most of your units.
Yeah, so it's very rare you use an Armor of Contempt, to be honest.
And for a single attack, what you'll tend to find is Armor of Contempt is great when it comes to melee. It's usually only 1 or 2 units that are actually attacking you. But when it comes to shooting, Armor of Contempt is a lot less useful.
Yeah.
So you'll find that your big bricks of Crusaders, actually you probably won't bother using Armor of Contempt on them.
No.
Just spend a CP on Go to Ground, because you essentially get the same thing, but for the entire phase. So when it's useful, it's very useful.
It's, again, I think all Marine players now are just in that kind of mode where it's like, oh, come on, it's what it is.
Yeah.
But it's okay. We've still got 4 more stratagems. What's the next one?
Castigate the Demagogues.
Damn.
It's not,
you said
it's not
something else.
castrate.
Yeah, I thought you said
So 1 CP and the unit gets precision in melee.
You'd have to be precise for that.
You'd have to be pretty precise for that.
Terrible stratagem.
It's
I don't like these stratagems. I'm not going to lie to you. I think, what is the point? Like, honestly, how often have you really needed to play precision on 10 models, 5 models to kill a character? You don't.
Yeah, usually you just wipe the unit.
Why couldn't it just be Lance or something that's actually impactful to the army?
Yeah.
Or some damage buff for melee? Because I think it's just like, you've got Epic Challenge. You don't really need it on...
And if anyone can Epic Challenge...
Hellbreak can Epic Challenge.
It's the Black Templars characters, right? And you even have precision inbuilt with the Emperor's Champion.
Yeah, it seems very out of place.
Yeah.
To be fair, there's a lot of detachments that have been given this, and it just feels a wasted stratagem, to be honest. I don't think I've ever seen it used. Oh well, it's a bit of a miss, but what's the next one?
Brute Fervor.
Nice.
Okay, so for 1 CP in the fight phase, you can give this to one of your units. You get reroll hit rolls of 1, and you can ignore any modifiers to your hit roll, your weapon skill, and the wound roll.
This I really like, and this was the stratagem I mentioned when we was comboing this for the +1 strength. Because if your opponent, let's look at the Orc matchup again. I'm doing this because it's Black Templars and I think it's really cool. Oh. But if we look at the Orc matchup and we go into a unit of knobs, well, they've got -1 to wound if the war boss is leading them. Well, now we've got +1 strength. We are probably going to oath it anyway, so the reroll ones to hit isn't really affecting. But now we ignore the -1 to wound and the +1 strength.
Yeah.
So it's really, really good comboing with that into certain matchups, because you can now ignore all debilitating effects onto your combat units and still get your abilities.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree with you. Great example, Vanguard with the character.
Yeah.
They don't have a unit rule. Against you.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. That's just made me feel really good. I hate the stratagem now.
So it's it's a solid stratagem, and the reroll ones is like an icing. Relentless Momentum is the next stratagem. So for 1 command point, You can pick a unit that's in combat with an enemy unit in the fight phase, and your unit, when you check for who's eligible to fight, you can pick models that are within 3 inches of the enemy unit that they are in engagement range of.
Okay, so this is obviously just designed for the 20 brick of Primaris Crusaders to get all the models into combat, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. You do have to fight the unit that's currently in engagement range of you. You can't fight someone that's 3 inches away but not in combat with you.
Okay.
So you can't use this to do some weird, silly stuff and somehow reach across.
How does it work then if you're in combat with 2 units? So let's say you're in 2 units, one model's based in this unit here, but was within 3 inches of the other unit that some other models are in engagement range. Could that model then fight that unit?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So you can pick anyone that's within 3 inches of you. They just have to be in engagement range
of your unit.
Exactly,
right.
exactly.
Okay, it's a very strong stratagem to have.
It is.
And it allows you to get past a lot of the maybe heroic intervention tighten up models potentially, right?
Yes.
There's that sort of counter to maybe stopping your big units from fighting. But you can just ignore that now and hit the target you want to hit.
Yeah, it's useful for your fight first units as well. If people are trying to use some of those plays to base you and stop you from being able to fight them, then it's really good for that. One of the main ways this is good, and this is cool little tactic for you, Vanguard tactic for you.
Okay.
Fighting through walls.
Ah, yeah,
fighting
true.
through walls. So now, because your opponent's an inch away from the wall, provided you're in combat with them, so one model maybe has got round the wall, now all of your models that are within 3 inches of that unit can fight them.
Yeah, which is really interesting actually, because it means that 1 inch from the wall tactic that most people employ, unless your event is not letting you do that, it's massive because now you can just ignore that thing, and to you as an opponent, you kind of go, well, what do I do? I'm just going to step away from the wall and let you charge through the wall, really.
And people will try and still do the 1 inch away from the wall thing, but they will get caught out by this stratagem, because you can get if you can get one of your models in combat with the enemy, you're probably guaranteed to get every single model in combat, because you'll stand on the other side of that wall and you go, cool, everybody's within 3 inches of these guys at the front there. Yeah. And you kill them.
Well, for Marines, if you have, let's say you had some models an inch away from the wall and you had 2 ranks touching the wall, you could get all those 2 ranks and the models fighting through because of it's less than 3 inches, that isn't it?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is a really good stratagem because of that ability to fight through walls. The final one we have is Voice of Devotion. This is 1 command point. It's in your command phase, and you can basically pick one of your units to be put into one of the litanies. I'm not going to name them all. 1 CP, +2 move is actually not bad. If you've got +1 strength across the army, I guess you wanted to give 1 unit +2 move.
Yeah, definitely.
Say like Grimaldus, his unit +2 move, that would be pretty handy actually.
Yeah, I think the one thing with this though is we actually said this. It's a really weird situation actually, because we said this on the Librarius Conclave detachment overview that it's missing a stratagem like this. But the reason for that is because all of the abilities are really, really good and they trigger different effects. Yeah. Right. Whereas this one, you can pick it every turn, so it's not like Gladius where you only get the ability once. You can do this every turn if you wanted a certain effect. But also, you probably pick the effect that the army needs, right? It's kind of useless in that situation. You're not going to want to put 5 up invul on a unit when the rest of your army doesn't need it, right?
Yeah, it's one of those +1 strength or +2 move when you really need it. Stratagems, but situational.
Yeah, agreed. All right, well, that's all the stratagems, all the enhancements. We've gone through the detachment rule. How are you feeling about this detachment? Do you think we're going to see this more than Righteous Crusaders?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
I think that there's too many good buffs from Righteous Crusaders. You can get your, sustained, lethal. These are all amazing things to have across an entire army in melee compared to just +2 move. Because once you're there, you're there. You don't need the move.
You are there, yeah.
You're there. +1 strength or lethals or sustained, it's an easy decision. And also when you start to look at the named characters, Helbrecht. So when it comes to the list, which you'll be able to watch on members, we've actually thought about how Helbrecht works with his critical 5s ability. And there's no way in this detachment to trigger lethal or sustained.
Apart from paying the premium of having a Castellan in the unit, right?
Exactly. Whereas we don't need to do that with the Righteous Crusaders detachment.
No, I think as well, like you mentioned, Helbrecht, he's an auto-include, I feel, because of how much damage that guy, with Sword Brethren to preface, but how much damage he puts out, he just absolutely slaps. And I think, like you said, there's no inherent damage buffs in this through stratagems or even enhancements. We're literally just looking at +1 strength. And like, for instance, the precision strat, we could have just binned that and give us like lethals or sustained or something for a stratagem. And I don't think that would have been too much. I think that would have made this detachment a lot more in contention then.
You might have taken it,
Yeah.
If it had that stratagem that we've seen pop up in a few places where you pick lethal or sustained for a unit, I think we would maybe have seen this detachment. I think as it currently stands, I'm not really sure we're going to see it.
No, neither's. But it's going to be interesting to see, right? Look, we're only theory hammering right
We're
now.
not Black Templars pros.
No.
So if you've got some combos or your own specific lists that you're looking at trying out, then obviously chuck that in the comments below and let us know what idiots we are.
Yes, exactly. Please do.
But otherwise, we've got a list to look at next, haven't we?
We do. So obviously, we're going to do that next on the members side of the channel. So thank you so much for watching this video. As Michael said, leave us your comments in the comment section below. Like the video, subscribe, and also we'll see you in the next video.